about your
Here it is. It's like 1,800 square feet. And got the potatoes growing. Got some dahlias, ranunculus, strawberries. Those are all being watered currently. Everywhere else is not quite ready yet. A lot of weeding needs to be done. I need to get more compost and bring some free wood chips over. Just got them for free. So, over here you'll see my raspberries. It started out as just like, I don't know, 12, 15 plants. There's a bumblebee. Cute. And all those plants, that was 2 years ago, all those plants sent out runners. So I lined the fence with them. Now there's like 30 or 40 raspberry plants. And then this year they sent out about 50 more runners. So we have plenty of raspberries. I need to figure out where to transplant all these because they're taking over what's supposed to be the pepper bed. I think peppers are going here, peppers and onions and a few salsa ingredients. These are my pansies. They made it through the winter. I grew them from seed last year, but that's fun. Here's some herbs. There's mint in the back. This is thyme, oregano, chives. This is angelica root, which is a medicinal herb. I don't know what it's used for, but I have it, so just in case. These are all the raspberries. On there. I don't know, I think the thing I'm most proud of is all these flowers that I grew from seed. This year I'm actually using the entire garden. I have plans to use the entire garden. Whereas last year there was a lot of empty space, but this year I'm going to use every last inch that is usable. This is my first year with a sprinkler. It's working really well so far. I'm really excited about all the biodiversity I see happening, especially in this kale patch. This is a thing of its own. So this kale I planted last year, made it through the winter, went to seed. So these are all the seed pods that we're going to harvest. Honeybees were all over the flowers when it was going to seed. And now there's ladybugs all over it. The ladybugs are eating the aphids. It's too bad there's not any good leaves to eat anymore because it's putting all its energy into seed production. But I have ladybugs attracted to my garden, which is great. You always want more beneficial bugs.
Is this the first time you've had them in your garden?
I've seen 1 or 2 before, but there's like at least 10 just in this one spot. So that's awesome. There've been more birds too around. There was that robin that made a nest last year, but this year I've seen like, just whenever I come in the morning or in midday, there's just birds everywhere. They're like going down, looking through everything. It means there's bugs in the soil, which is what we want. Yeah, it's gonna be really nice. We're gonna do the rows all the way down on both sides. So we'll take out all the weeds and I'll just put compost on top and wood chips in between. Excited about the strawberries that are coming in again. These are alpine variety, so they're really small but really sweet. And these hollyhocks are gonna be black. Big black stalks of flowers. Grew those from seed last year. Any questions from the audience?
The audience is wondering, when are you going to plant the rest of the stuff?
As soon as possible. It's June 1st already. Can I date the video?
Yes.
Okay, June 1st. So everything should have been planted 2 days ago, but it's gonna take a couple more weeks to get the whole garden ready. I mean, it's okay because this year I've more than tripled my production space. I have another garden at home that I'm taking care of, and this one I'm expanding, like I said before, to use up every last inch that I can. I should organize some work parties or something. We just got to get the compost in, wood chips down, and weeds out, and then everything's ready to go in the ground. I have all the starts at home, all the seeds ready to go. So hopefully it'll be in by middle of the month. Got to work around the heat too, so there's only so many hours that you can be out here working.
And how about those potatoes?
Those are potatoes. We planted
I
them.
feel like it was about okay.
It was around the first dandelion blooming. That's what all the old timers said to do. Some of them said to wait until Mother's Day, but we did like 2 weeks before that when the dandelions were out, and they're coming up beautifully. They're all Yukon Gold, so that's our favorite variety and multi-purpose potato. Oh yeah, there's volunteer potatoes coming up here too. You might get sprinkled a little bit. Potatoes. I think every single one of them sprouted.
So how were these potatoes planted? How did they start?
Well, I ordered seed potatoes from a local grower, organic of course. Got them in the mail in like, I want to say early April, and then I just kind of set them in a cool, dark place to let them sprout. So by the beginning of May, they were ready to go. They had eyes on them that had little purple or green sprouts on them. So we took those, we cut them into quarters. I think most of them were quartered. Dug trenches about at least 6 inches deep. Spaced them apart, I don't know how many inches, whatever looked good. Made sure each quarter had a couple eyes on it so that it would sprout. But I think even the ones that only had one eye are sprouting. So don't discount your potatoes until you've planted them.
Can anyone plant potatoes, like with the ones that you get from the store that start sprouting that you didn't use in time?
You can. If you do that, you want to make sure they're organic, because usually the conventionally grown ones are treated with like anti-growth stuff, chemicals,
So that
to keep them from sprouting and keep them from growing.
Why?
The longer shelf life.
Oh.
Yeah. So if your potatoes are sprouting vigorously, like you left them for too long in the pantry, they're probably fine. You could probably just plant them in the ground. Organic is also going to be better because they aren't allowed to use GMO crops. You want as heirloom, as organic, as fresh as possible if you're going to be growing and eating it anyway.
What's wrong with GMO crops?
GMO crops are not natural. I don't have to explain it to people very often.
Yeah.
They are modified organisms. So you take nature and then you modify it to improve it. The conventional or the industrial agriculture industry is trying to standardize the crops that are grown and own the rights to foods and plants so that you have to buy your seed through them. That's kind of one of the main things. It's money, all about money. One of the most common examples is they take tomato genes and cross them with fish genes to make a bigger, better tomato. But that would never happen in the wild. And so it's such a new technology, we have no idea the consequences of tampering with nature in that way, except that there have already been a lot of cases of people having adverse health effects to eating GMO foods, as well as them affecting local wildlife and soil life because of how they're like a Frankenstein food. It's just not the way God intended it.
Like, we've always been genetically modifying our food in a way because of selective breeding and stuff. So is it just that, like, what's the difference between selective breeding and genetic modification? Like, why is one bad?
Here's what I know. Here's what I know. Selective breeding is usually just saving the seeds from a plant that you like the characteristics of, and then planting those only, discarding the rest. Crossbreeding usually take two varieties of the same species of plant, so like two apple seeds, and splice them together to make a hybrid apple that has the characteristics of both apples. GMO crops are created in a lab. There's no way to make a GMO crop out in the field. Usually they have a lot of fertility issues, like you grow a GMO crop, you have to harvest it and use it. It can't go to seed and be then saved for the next year because it won't grow, or it'll grow all weird and wonky. There's also been a lot of research done on even just the taste and texture of a GMO food versus a regular food. Regular, real, heirloom, organic. And the taste is way better.
Really?
It's like these tomatoes, these fish tomatoes, you know? They're big and they're red, but they're like watery and just gross tasting. The other thing with GMO crops is they're bred, or they're created to withstand high amounts of pesticide and herbicide use. They're not just trying to create a crop that's resistant to pests and disease. They're trying to create a crop that can withstand high amounts of chemicals that kill off pests and disease. So it's just a never-ending cycle where if you fix the soil and the plants are healthy, they'll resist pests and disease anyway.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, like, when you consider that conventional agriculture is all about money, like, it's all about meeting a high demand for, like, fast food chains or cereal brands or whatever, you start to realize that their goal is money, not health. Like, when you're growing healthy food, it's at a great expense. So when you're growing cheap food, what are you making? you know? Like, their goal is money. Our goal is health.
And money. Like, I'd like to see a world where it's cheaper to grow real food.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that flip-flopped back in order.
Yeah.
So we could be healthy and still, like, you know, sell the things that we make at a reasonable price.
And keep the soil and the wildlife healthy, because that's a big thing.
That would be awesome.
I do have a quote. Are you still recording?
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you it at some point. On one of the regenerative agriculture groups that I'm on, someone said, I would like to see the lingo change surrounding food, and that organic food would just be called food. And that you would have to specify if it's grown with pesticides or herbicides or fungicides, if it's GMO, if it's just not regeneratively grown. Like, tell them the soil conditions it was grown in, how the workers were treated, and all this different stuff. Because regenerative agriculture is also about, you know, fair trade, but then also, like, it's people who are passionate about the work who are doing it, putting in the hours to get you good food. So that's cool. Yeah. Like, these are just potatoes. I took a potato, I put it in the dirt. Never gonna be touched by chemicals. They're literally just potatoes.